What happens when leadership turns into a spectacle, a show of power rather than a tool for positive change? It's a question that echoes throughout history, reverberating in the halls of power and whispered in the hushed corners of society. True leadership is more than just wielding authority. It's about using that power to uplift, to inspire, to make a difference. But what happens when that model is upended, when power becomes a weapon, not a tool? One place to see this unfold is in the state of California. Trump's leadership style has been nothing short of controversial. Known for his brash and confrontational approach, Trump has often been accused of bypassing democratic norms, sowing chaos, and leaving Americans to clean up the mess. This style of leadership is not without its critics, who argue that such an approach is more about control than it is about service to the people. Trump's tenure as president saw him act unilaterally on numerous occasions, flouting traditional channels of decision-making. He often chose to act first and deal with the consequences later, a strategy that led to a number of high-profile controversies. This approach wasn't about consultation or consensus, but rather about making bold, decisive moves, regardless of the potential fallout. The chaos that often resulted from these decisions left many Americans feeling uncertain and anxious. Rather than providing a steady hand of leadership, Trump's actions often seemed to stir up more confusion and discord. This approach was far from the calm, measured leadership that many were used to, and it often left those in his wake scrambling to adjust and adapt. But perhaps one of the most glaring examples of this was his unilateral decision to deploy the National Guard in California. Without consulting with the state's leadership or seeking their approval, Trump dispatched thousands of troops into the streets of California. This was not a response to a request for assistance or a collaboration with local leaders. Instead, it was a political maneuver, designed to stir up fear and division. This decision perfectly encapsulates Trump's leadership style. It was a move that bypassed democratic norms, sowed chaos, and left Americans to deal with the aftermath. It wasn't about solving problems or working together. It was about control, about asserting power, and about creating a spectacle. In the end, Trump's leadership style raises important questions about what it means to lead. Is leadership about control and power, or is it about service and collaboration? These are questions that will continue to be debated long after Trump's presidency. But one thing is clear: his unilateral decision to deploy the National Guard in California will be remembered as a defining moment in his leadership. California, a state known for its diversity and progressive politics, was left to deal with the aftermath of Trump's decision. A decision that was neither requested nor approved by state and local leaders, but was rather a unilateral move by the former president. The deployment of the National Guard and the ICE raids instigated by Trump were not just a show of force, but a direct assault on the spirit of the Californian community. They were a stark reminder of the power wielded by the Oval Office, with the ability to push the boundaries of democratic norms and leave a trail of confusion and fear in its wake. The impact was immediate and profound. Imagine, if you will, the fear that gripped communities as thousands of uniformed soldiers patrolled the streets, not in a far-flung war zone, but in the heart of their hometowns. The sight of military vehicles on American soil, not for protection but for intimidation, was a chilling sight that echoed a darker time in history. Families were torn apart as loved ones were ripped from their homes during the ICE raids, their only crime being the pursuit of the American dream. Protests were met with tear gas and rubber bullets, a harsh response to the cries for justice and safety. This wasn't about national security, it was about spectacle, a show of power designed to instill fear and create division. The streets of California, known for their vibrancy and diversity, were transformed into a stage for Trump's latest act of political theatre. The people of California, however, are not just spectators. They are a community forged in resilience and unity. Despite the fear and uncertainty, they stood their ground, their voices echoing their defiance against this authoritarian display of power. Despite not being asked or approved by state and local leaders, Trump's decision sent ripples of fear and uncertainty through the state. But in the face of adversity, California stood tall, a testament to the enduring spirit of its people. Yet in the face of adversity, Californians did what they do best. They stood up and protested. This is the California we know, a state that prides itself on diversity and inclusivity, a place where every voice matters. When faced with an unexpected military presence on their streets, Californians reacted the only way they knew how, with resilience and defiance. From San Diego to Sacramento, residents took to the streets, raising their voices against the intimidation tactics. In Los Angeles, a city known for its vibrant immigrant communities, protests emerged as a powerful symbol of resistance. Thousands gathered in peaceful demonstration, their chants echoing through the city streets, a chorus of dissent that could not be ignored. It wasn't just individuals who stood against the forceful act. Elected officials, community leaders, and organizations all joined the chorus, condemning the deployment of the National Guard. They declared their cities as sanctuaries, reaffirming their commitment to protect their residents from fear and intimidation. In schools, churches, and community centers, Californians came together, offering support and solidarity to those most vulnerable. But this wasn't just about protest. It was about resilience. It was about Californians refusing to be silenced, refusing to let fear dictate their lives. They showed that they value their multicultural community, that they stand united against any attempt to divide them. They displayed in no uncertain terms that the spirit of California is one of resistance and strength. In the face of fear, Californians showed courage. In the face of division, they showed unity. And in the face of authoritarian force, they showed that they will not be trampled. They stood up for what they believe in, for their values, their neighbors, their communities. No, Californians did not ask for this. But they responded to it with the kind of strength and determination that has defined them for generations. Their message was loud and clear. California is not a battleground, it's a community. The people of California made it clear that they will not be trampled by authoritarian force. So then, what does real leadership look like? It's a question that warrants deep introspection, especially in the light of events that have unfolded recently. Leadership, in essence, isn't about wielding power or instilling fear, as we've seen with Donald Trump's approach. Rather, leadership is about compassion. It's about understanding the needs and concerns of those you lead and addressing them with empathy. It's about recognizing the inherent value and dignity of every individual, regardless of their background or status. It's about treating people not as pawns in a political game, but as human beings deserving of respect and dignity. Leadership is about strategy. It's not about making impulsive decisions based on personal whims or political expediency. It's about carefully considering the long-term implications of actions and making decisions that are in the best interest of the people, even when they're not the most popular or expedient. It's about having a vision for the future and a plan to get there, rather than simply reacting to events as they unfold. Moreover, leadership is about the will of the people. A leader does not impose their will on the people they lead, but rather they listen to them. They understand their needs, their fears, their hopes, and their dreams, and they use this understanding to guide their actions. A leader respects the democratic process and the rule of law, understanding that their power comes from the people and not the other way around. In contrast to Trump's style of leadership, true leadership doesn't rely on fear and force, but on respect and cooperation. It doesn't seek to divide, but to unite. It doesn't exploit differences for political gain, but seeks to bridge them for the common good. In conclusion, leadership should not be about fear and force, but about working together for the betterment of all. It's about compassion, strategy, and respecting the will of the people. It's about leading by example, not by intimidation. It's about building bridges, not walls. And most importantly, it's about serving the people, not oneself. In the end, Trump's leadership style is a lesson in what not to do. His actions in California are a stark reminder that leadership is not about control or spectacle, but about serving the people. When he bypassed democratic norms, sowed chaos, and left Americans to clean up the mess, he showed us what happens when a leader prioritizes ego over empathy. This video has highlighted the impact of his actions on California, with ICE raids shaking communities and the unilateral deployment of the National Guard creating fear and division. A leader doesn't impose his will on the people, he works in partnership with them. Governor Newsom and Mayor Bass were not consulted, their voices and the voices of their constituents were ignored. The response of Californians, however, shows us the true spirit of democracy. They are not a battleground, but a community standing up, protesting, and making it clear that they will not be trampled by authoritarian force. Trump's actions are not about national security, they're about political theatre. They're not solutions, they're spectacles. But leadership isn't about clenched fists and Twitter rants. It's about compassion, strategy, and respect for the will of the people. Thank you for watching. Remember, true leadership is about compassion, strategy, and respect for the will of the people.